Okay, the one small thing we are going to talk about is what's called average rate of change. Okay? So take about 30 seconds and just talk about at your pod what comes to mind when I say average rate of change. Rate of change makes you think of what?
So it's the changes over time it's just how everybody listen to the change. Rate of time is how rate is like I think it's actually good.
Okay, cat 8. What comes to mind when I say rate of change? Slope. Okay, we find slope when we have a line, but if something's not a line, we're not going to say that it has slope. But if I ask for the average rate of change, I'm essentially asking for the slope between 2 points on a graph. That's not a line. Okay, so it's described as the slope of a secant line. Okay, I would not write every single word down up here. Okay, I would write the slope of a secant line. Okay, what's a secant line? A secant line is a line that goes through. You learned it as a circle. It goes through the circle 2 times. Okay, well now we're in algebra. We're not really worrying about circles right now. It goes through our graph 2 times. Okay, and then this should look familiar, right? Y minus y over x minus x. You're just finding slope. Good reminder for today. Okay. Those of you who continue your mathematics past pre-calculus, rate of change is going to be a very important phrase, and I really need you to associate that with the word slope. Rate of change equals slope. Rate of change equals slope. Is it warm in here?
I think it's perfect.
You think it's perfect?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a good temperature.
Okay.
It's either too hot.
So if we're sitting down,
Yeah.
All right. It kind of sounds like we're ready. Give me a finger if you need me to wait. Yeah.
Like the bottom, is it supposed to be X's or Y's?
So these are x's. These are y's. So f of x is the same thing as y. It's like our output. So this is the same thing as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But since we're dealing with functions, I'm going to use function notation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here's our first example. Okay, here's an example for us. If you go ahead and write down the function and then write down the x values. Okay, so if I am asking you to find the average rate of change on the parabola x squared minus 2x plus 8 between x equals 1 and x equals 5, Okay, we know that we need to find the slope between 2 points, but we only know the x values. So what are we going to need to do? We're going to need to find the y values. So we need to determine what f of 1 is. If we plug 1 into this function, what do we get? 7? And then we also need f of 5. One.
Sounds like
25 minus 10 plus 8. So then, to find our average rate of change, we need to take the difference of our y values over the difference of our x values, making sure that our coordinates are consistent. What is our average rate of change? I'll go back to it. What did we have? X squared. What was it? X squared minus 2x. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here is our parabola. We went from 1 to 5. So what we found is from x equals 1 to x equals 5, the average rate of change is 4. So we found the slope of that secant line. Okay, obviously we don't have slope on a parabola, but on average we have a change of 4 over 1. That's what Okay, so I'm going to give you, we're going to do this I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Write down f of x equals the absolute value of 2x plus 5, the quantity, minus 3. We're on the interval -1 to 4. I'd like you to find me the average rate of change. Feel free to work as a pod. But from -1 to 4, what is the average rate of change of the absolute value of the quantity 2x plus 5 minus 3? I don't want it quiet in here. It's going to be quiet in here pretty soon.
so ridiculous. That's great.
That's not what I'm going to do. But that's very fun.
So that we can plug into the
Okay, you have one more minute. Okay, you're plugging negative ones. Like, yeah, see, this is an interval. This is an interval from x equals negative 1 to x equals 4. Okay? Okay, so our interval means those are the x values that we're stretching across. Okay? So f of negative 1, what do we get? 0? Okay. F of 4, we get. So for our average rate of change, we have y minus y over x minus x. You should get the same thing. But if you put 0 minus 10, you better put negative 1 minus 4. Like the 10 and the 4 need to be grouped together because they're from the same coordinate. Okay. All right, so you have a 2-question assignment. Don't strain yourself. Okay. Also, though, I'm going to hand something out on the 22nd. On Wednesday, we are going to work on a section that deals with transformations of functions, like how to shift them up, down, left, right, stretch, shrink, which I know you've talked about in Algebra 2. So I'm just going to have you start working on this 8 basic functions chart. It does not have to be filled out this weekend. It needs to be filled out by the time you come back on Wednesday. But since you only have a 2-question assignment, it's something that you can get started on. Okay, so there's 8 functions that I want you to be very familiar with. You're going to be able to fill everything on this chart out except the very right column. I have not taught you what an even or odd function is. So the very right column, you're not going to be able to do this weekend. But if you want to start on everything else, go for it. Okay? But when do we need these for class? Wednesday. They're just going to help us with what we're going to do in class for our lesson that day. Okay? So you have 2 problems for your book homework. This that I don't need until Wednesday. Let's go ahead and take our first Friday quiz. So first of all, just clear your desk. You need a pencil, no calculator. Did I give you an extra
Oh.